Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, and today we are starting a very exciting reading vlog where I will be doing part 2 of my most anticipated releases of the year. I really wish I kind of started this earlier on in the year because obviously I had a load that were out in this first half of the year and I just didn't include them in my reading vlogs, but I've really enjoyed doing these. I did a part 1 and that included Blood Over Brighthaven by Emma Wang, Witch King by Martha Wells, and Family Lore by Elizabeth Acevedo. So I will leave that link down below if you want to go have a nosy at that. And then in this one, I'm going to be reading 3 more anticipated releases. I will be reading Labyrinth's Heart by Emma Carrick. Labyrinth's Heart is the third and final book in the Work in the Row series, and I've thoroughly enjoyed my time with it. It's very slow paced, world is incredibly detailed, and I just really love the characters. Very excited to see how it ends. Then we have The Chalice of Gods by Rick Riordan. This is technically book 6 in the Percy Jackson and the Olympian series, but it's kind of its own separate book. It doesn't directly continue on from the original series, but obviously it follows the same 3 characters, and it is first person from his point of view, and it follows him as he's trying to get college recommendation letters. And then the third and final book that I will be reading will be Fragile Threads of Power by V.E. Schwab. This is the long-awaited start of a new series set in the same world as Shades of Magic, but 7 years after the original story ends. While we're here, I'm very happy to say that I will be doing a part 3 before the year ends. But for now, let's get into reading. I'm simply filming this clip in the hopes that it will motivate me to actually start Labyrinth's Heart. Literally right beside me. I don't know why, but I am afraid of this book. Like, I'm scared. Like, I don't think that they are going to like kill off main characters or anything. Like, I mean, they could, but it's not necessarily a story where I'm like, oh, I'm scared for the characters. But the way things ended the last time, where are things going? Literally all I read was the prologue, and it's a flashback to the past, and we're getting a character and his like friendship with another character from book 1, and it's so sweet. I'm a little less scared now. So it's been a couple of hours since my first little update. I have made progress. I'm about a quarter of the way through. I will say, like, the book looks the same size as the first 2, but I'm pretty sure the text is way smaller. So not quite a quarter, but the next chapter is like quite long, and by then I'll be over the quarter mark. So I was like, I'll just check it now. It's probably gonna be a 5-star, like Witch King, around 25% up. So yeah, it's definitely a 5-star. Whereas this one, I'm not necessarily getting that. I think it was about a third or halfway through in Liar's Knot, and I was like, oh my god, I think I love this book. And like, I'm still loving the characters and loving the world and all of that. So I'm pretty sure it's going to be a 5-star, but it's not like quite as like passionate as like Witch King. But I think as the book continues on, it's gonna get more, because as I said, I'm like 138 pages in and I still have like another like 500 to go. One of the reasons why I was scared of this book, well, one of them is because I was like, well, I gave the first one like a low 4-star and then the second one a 5-star, so like, where's this gonna fall? Am I gonna like really love it, or is it gonna be a bit of that down? And then number 2 was I had read the like sneak peek at the end of the last book, and on the one hand I was like, oh my god, this is gonna be so good, but then on the other hand I was scared how this thing that I saw in the sneak peek was going to play out. And to be honest, I'm not necessarily sure I like that element. Like, I love everything else, but when that thing comes into play, I'm just like, can we move on? I understand why it's there, but I'm like, but also, did it have to be there? I suppose we'll see as the book goes on. But that's like the only thing that I actually kind of have a problem with, and even then it's not like that much of a problem, because like, it doesn't take up that much page time, so I'm able to mostly ignore it. Okay, I'm exactly halfway through, and it's gonna be a 5-star. The first third, which I did kind of say in my last update, I was like, well, it took me, I think, about a third to a half to really love Liar's Knot. And the thing that was kind of annoying me, that's like over and done with. I mean, like, the consequences are happening, but like, the thing itself is kind of done with, and things are happening now. I think a lot more is happening than in the previous books, so it's also a lot quicker, but it is still very much character world driven, but I'm having such a good time. I don't know when was the last time I updated you, because let's just say it's been a week. I finished Labyrinth's Heart. I think you have 5 stars. Like, I remember I updated you at like the 25% mark, but I'm not sure did I update you after that. I read almost half of it on Monday, and then I read almost the entirety of the rest of it on Tuesday, except the last 80 pages. And then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I was working. And so I had no time to read on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So I had 80 pages to go for 3 whole days. I was losing my mind. I wanted to finish it so bad, but I got home and I was literally just so exhausted that I just went straight to bed. So yesterday, I finally got to sit down and I finished it and I love it. I don't love it, I think, as much as The Liar's Knot, but I did still really love it. Mask of Mirrors follows Ren, and she is a con woman, and she has come back to the city that she was born in with her sister to try and make a life for themselves. She's going to basically impersonate the distant cousin of this noble house to try and get her way in, secure herself as fortune, and her and her sister can live nice lives for the rest of their lives. But then there's a lot of other things that begin to happen. So the noble house that she has infiltrated is not as wealthy as they appear, and they are struggling a lot. Then all of the other noble houses have a lot of conspiracy happening, and then the people of the lower banks where she is from, there is also some interesting politics happening there as well. This entire series is extremely slow paced. That is the intention of it. It is not supposed to be fast action packed or anything like that. It is supposed to be extremely slow and detailed, and I love it. But I will say this one is faster paced than the first two, but I wouldn't say fast paced. Maybe you might push it to medium paced instead of slow paced, but definitely not fast paced. But there is actually a lot more that happens in this book than I think in the previous ones. Like the first 2 books, it's a lot of setup until like the very end, and then a lot happens. Whereas in this one, we kind of actually had a lot of things happening constantly, just constantly like resolving old plots, introducing new ones, resolving them. There was a lot to be done, and I think overall, I think they did a good job of it. There was a couple of things that I wanted to happen that didn't happen, but I think overall I was very satisfied with how they wrapped up everyone's storyline. And I also think maybe there were some points where things might have been too easy. I overall really, really like this story, really, really love the characters. I do think I prefer Liar's Knot, which, as I said, because I do think like Labyrinth's Heart is like, objectively, I think it is probably better, but there's just scenes from Liar's Knot that like moments between characters that I was obsessed with. And like there is definitely some of those moments in here, but it just didn't hit to the same level. I enjoyed how the stories wrapped up, like the characters and the romances and the siblings and just like the whole themes of like family, and just finally figuring out the rest of like the little questions about the world that we still had, figuring those out. I really loved. I do think the one thing that I missed kind of a little more in this book than in previous ones is the vigilante aspect. I think it wasn't there as much. Like, we definitely did get some like iconic vigilante scenes in here, but I don't think that the same level. But overall, I did really, 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 really enjoy this, and I'm so glad that I finally got to finish it and finish this series. And yeah, I'm kind of sad it's over, but it's definitely a series that I would love to revisit in the future. I think it probably is on my favorite series. Like, it's not in the top 5 or anything, but it's definitely probably in the top 10. I don't know what I would kick out though. Now, I have a couple more days to wait, and then Fragile Ties of Power and Chalice of the Gods coming out. And the thing is, I mean, it was all fine and well, but now I'm not sure I want to read Fragile Ties of Power. I'm actually afraid of the book. I mean, obviously I do want to read it, but also I don't want to read it. Because, number one, what if I hate it? I mean, okay, I'm not going to hate it, but what if I don't love it? And number two, what if she kills someone off? 4 years that I've loved this series. I mean, I knew back then, like, she had teased that she wanted to revisit this world. So I knew back then she was going to come back one day. And I was excited all the way back then. So I've been waiting 4 years for this. And I guess never once in my mind did it really, like, connect. Oh, she could and probably will kill someone off. And I think the reason why, well, no, it did kind of occur to me. I was like, oh, I'm scared of another series because she could kill off someone that I love. But the thing with V.E. Schwab is most of the time they don't kill someone off until the final book. But then it's, you know, it's a free-for-all, like. But now I'm kind of like, oh no, V.E. Schwab might kill someone off in this book just to prove a point. Because on their Instagram stories a couple of days ago, she did a Q&A and basically implied that, like, you might cry at the end of this book. And I was like, there's only one reason why I would cry, and it's if someone's gonna die. And I don't think I'm emotionally okay with that. Like, I actually don't think I'm able for it. Okay, so I think I'm gonna read Chalice of the Gods first, which was not the original plan. The original plan was Chalice of the Power, because I am more excited for that, but I don't know, for some reason Chalice of the Gods is, like, really calling to me. Come on, Percy Jackson's basically immortal at this stage. I have the copy on its way to me, but it's not here yet. Thankfully, the library came through, and the joy I felt just opening that library ebook. Like, I literally just pressed on it, and, like, my heart just went. I haven't even read a single word of it yet. Okay, I've now read, like, one word. Number 1, chapter titles are back. And the first line is, I didn't ask to be a high school senior. Yes, I still haven't finished the first chapter, but the school that has a swimming pool, like, Brooke Lauren, have you been reading fan fiction? There are however many books into this world, and still, nobody will explain anything to Percy. They all just look at him like, are you stupid? And he's just sitting there like, will someone tell me what's going on? Oh, I love him. I'm finally into chapter 2. I do already love this. And I will say, I do think that, like, the whole thing of, like, you need 3 letters to get into university is kind of, like, it's a silly concept, considering, like, supposedly, I mean, quests are extremely rare in Camp Half-Blood. And when we read the Heroes of Olympus, you find they're even rarer. Camp Jupiter, they, like, barely see, like, the big gods. Like, they see, like, some minor ones, but, like, they never really interact with, like, the Olympians. You know, Dionysus is literally the camp leader of Camp Half-Blood, so, you know, a bit more interaction there. So, like, the whole getting 3 recommendations letter is kind of silly. And I'm curious to see how he's going to explain it, because, like, I kind of thought, like, oh, the rest of them definitely just, like, get one from their parent, and, like, oh, what's the guy, like, Terminus, and just, like, minor ones that are just, like, around, but, like, they're gonna just, like, be like, hey, Percy, I want to go on a quest. You need to. So, like, I'm curious. Are they just using Percy so he'll go on quests? Or is there another explanation? Or are we just not going to touch on that? Just go with the flow. So, it is explained away. And basically, I was kind of right. A wild Grover has appeared. Alrighty. The 3 of them being back together. Already iconic. I've really missed the Percy and Grover dynamic. Grover literally, like, he said, oh, I usually just come here, keep a low profile and leave. And then, like, looks at Percy, and Percy's like, he looks like I think I'm gonna do something high profile. Like, and he's like, just because I blow things up and destroy things, I'm like, do you think there's a point? And there's just this really sweet paragraph where Percy's talking about Sally. Okay, official 25% update. Oh yeah, it's a 5-star. I just know it. So we've actually, like, finally gotten to, like, the quest, and the quest has already started. It is very quick, and, like, that's the thing, is what kind of, like, bothered me about Heroes of Olympus is, despite the fact that they are long books, I feel like not much happens. Like, it's the same amount happens as in, like, these 200, 300, 400 page Percy Jackson books, despite the fact that those are, like, over 500. And whereas this, as I said, this is, I can't remember the exact page count, but he can put the same amount of plot in them. He just cuts out a lot of, like, the meandering, but he still manages to have better character relationships in the shorter books. Usually I'm all for longer, but with these books, shorter is really better, and first person is also really better. At the point where I'm at, I'm probably gonna slow down with the updates because obviously I don't want to spoil it. I already have so many highlights in the ebook, just like moments that made me laugh. It's really good. I'm about a third of the way in now, and we're having a really nice scene between Percy and his mother, and I really like that because even in actually the original series, like, we get Percy's perspective obviously, and we see that he loves his mom, and we even see that in like Son of Neptune. Like, he goes out of his way to make sure that he can somehow like get in contact with his mother, so we like know that he loves his mother. But I feel like we actually don't get that many scenes with them, especially like not in the middle of the book. Like, we get one like maybe at the start and at the end. But because this quest is like in New York, it means at the end of the day he's going back home. I'm really appreciating those moments. Okay, so we're just about at the halfway point. Still having a great time. It's very low stakes, very cozy, very fun. It's a Percy Jackson book. Okay, actually, a lot of Percy Jackson books have a lot higher stakes than this, but this doesn't feel high stakes. I think a lot of fans and stuff, like, I've seen a lot of like posts, Twitter and Instagram and all of that, where they take scenes and stuff like that and they like to imagine, like, which obviously it's fine to imagine what comes next, and I think they take like little scenes and something and make that a much bigger part of him than it actually is. Like Dark Percy. What about the 9 other books where he never nearly goes there? A lot of this is required saying, see what some of you are saying, that like he's definitely been burned a few too many times by the gods, and he's skeptical and annoyed by all of that, which in fairness he's been since book 1, let's be honest. But also it doesn't change who he is at the core of his person, which is a good person who loves his friends and family and would do anything for them. That's what makes me love this book so much. Like, the moments between him and his mother, the moments between him and Annabeth, obviously having Grover back again is great. Like, he's kind of an icon. I'm here to update you. So I finished The Chalice of the Gods last night. I don't know when actually was the last time I updated you. In fairness, I don't think there was really much more I could have added without spoiling everything for you, and I didn't want to do that because, I mean, obviously a lot of people are extremely excited for this book. I absolutely loved it. I give it 5 stars. It's one of my favorite Rick Riordan books. I feel like I need to reread the original series because the 2 5 stars I have from that are The Titan's Curse and The Battle of the Labyrinth, and I feel like I need to read the 2 of those. But obviously I'm not going to just read 3 and 4. I'm going to read the entire series if I'm going to do that. And what I think, so like, I've only given 3 Rick Riordan books 5 stars. So that's The Chalice of the Gods, Battle of the Labyrinth, Titan's Curse, and Battle of the Labyrinth. So like, I'm not sure which one of those I would put as like my favorite, but I truly did love this, and it is, as I said, it's definitely top 3 anyway. I think a lot of the stuff I actually said earlier on, I think it actually became more prevalent in the story as it went on, because I said a lot of things about like about like growing up and all of this, and kind of just like appreciating his life and all of this, and I think that actually became a lot bigger part of the story, and I really love that, and it is always so much fun to be in Percy Jackson's point of view. The writing style was perfection. It was sarcastic and full of humor, but also very sweet and thoughtful at points, and I think Rick Riordan did a very good job of balancing that, you know, chaotic 12-year-old that we follow in the first book still being very much at the heart. Yes, he's been through so much, but at the end of the day, he is still very much that person. I don't think that that was shown a lot in Heroes of Olympus. There was moments where it was, but that was a complaint I had about the Heroes of Olympus. And Heroes of Olympus, he wasn't really the same. And I don't know if it was because of the 3rd person point of view. As I said, I loved the way it was written. I loved the way he was characterized, as well as all of his friends and stuff. I do think it was a little sad that maybe we didn't get like a little more mentions of the Heroes of Olympus characters, but considering I don't really care about them that much, it didn't bother me that much. A big part of what I enjoyed about this is like, it's pretty low stakes. Like, obviously, like, we know that this is actually before the Trials of Apollos, and he appears in those, so, like, we know he's okay. And also, it's Percy Jackson, he's always gonna be okay. At the end of the day, the consequences, like, if this goes wrong, the consequences are kind of more on someone else, not him. But, like, it's Percy Jackson, he doesn't want anyone to get in trouble. So it was in New York. He, at the end of the day of questing, he would just go home to his mother. And I think that left room for a lot more things. And I think I really enjoyed just so much of the discussions. As I said, I loved the moments that he had with his mother as well as Paul, and just that. And also, like, kind of the discussion of, I mean, he's basically been gone for a year, and now he's kind of finally getting to have, like, a normal life. Before that, you know, obviously he's like moving from school to school, and like there was boarding schools, there was Smelly Gabe, all of that stuff. Like, he's finally now getting like a bit of a childhood, and like that's a big part of this, is like the fear of like growing up. And I think I really appreciated that, because I mean, it's real. And also we get some like really sweet interactions with Grover, and like his fear about his friends going away, and like obviously Percy's fear about leaving his mother, and like I think that was all done really well, and it was all really sweet. At the end of the day, the book was kind of like, I guess it was kind of about embracing growing up. Like, while yes, this book, kids are gonna enjoy it, and it is technically for kids, I think Rick Riordan was also like really like, I know that there's older people that are gonna read this book, and it's okay to grow up. Yes, I think he did a really good job of like obviously making it appropriate for kids, and you know, all of that, but also like I think he did a good job of like knowing there's a lot of people who are gonna read this book who read Percy Jackson back in 2005 or any time in between. I read them when I was about 12, so let's say 2013-ish. Actually no, maybe 2012. So like he knew there was a lot of people who were gonna have read these books years and years ago who were gonna be like, oh my god, it's Percy Jackson, yeah, I'm reading it. And I think he did a really good job of like putting moments in there that like older fans would appreciate, and also like moments about like aging and stuff that older fans will appreciate, while also still obviously making it extremely enjoyable and fun for younger readers. And I had a really good time with it. It was a 5-star, and I'm so excited for more Percy Jackson. Anyway, that leaves one more book to read in this video. I'm so scared. So I'll see you all later with, I guess, some updates. I literally haven't even gotten to chapter 1, and can you tell my eyes are misty? I literally just saw the name Tyrion. Gonna keep this brief. I don't love it, and it makes me want to cry. Like, it's good. It's gonna be a 4-star, but I just, like, obviously, like, you expect the characters to have changed in 7 years, and they have and they haven't. So it's really strange. There's too many characters, and I'm 41% in. I've spotted, I think, 3 different continuity errors, and also there was like a death of a character from the original series that happened in like the 7 years off there, and it's just like, I'm 41% in, and we are only now getting introduced to the plot in White London. There's enough happening in Red London, we don't need another plot line. I haven't read any more since I last spoke to you, but I've just been pondering, and I just feel so stupid, because like I'm literally, the past like hour I've been on the verge of tears, because a book that I like, that's a good book, is not quite as good as I wanted it to be. I'm like, literally first world problems. Like, I do have genuine criticisms, but also I also think a lot of it is just me. It's me. Hi, I'm the problem, it's me. Because like, it's a different series. It isn't going to capture the same feelings, and the reason the original series has these feelings of like the nostalgia, the comfort, the hug, is because I've read it 5 times. Like, so of course it's not going to have the same feeling, because it's not the same book, it's not the same series, I'm not familiar with it. So like, of course it's not going to feel the same. It's not the same. My whole Schwab ratings is so skewed, because like, I'm pretty sure I'm going to give this 4 stars. Obviously, I've heard, I think, the like end of it is amazing. So who knows, maybe it will get bumped up to a 5. But I have to this point, I think it's going to be a 4. But I would say I prefer it to Addie LaRue and Gallant. And I gave both of those 5 stars. So like, this should be a 5 star then. Because I like it more than those. But it's like, but it's not the same level as Shades of Magic. So I can't give it the same rating as those. But yeah, so like, as I said, it's me. I'm the problem. There's things that are touched on because obviously there's a lot of fallout from what has just happened 7 years ago. And we're not actually dealing with them. And I want to sit with that stuff a little longer. And I want to sit with the stuff that's happened that we are just like getting dropped. Oh, this happened like 5 years ago. What? The characters that I should be like the most familiar with, like Kel, Lila, Rai, and Alucard. Like those characters, I shouldn't have to feel like I'm being reintroduced to them. They shouldn't feel like new characters to me, and they do. I'm also getting so many other new characters as well. And I feel like if those characters felt more like themselves to me, it wouldn't, so many other characters wouldn't bother me as much, because we have Nadia and Ren and Tess, and we also have and 2 others that we've only briefly gotten introduced to, and also another one over in White London that we've literally only gotten introduced to. And so like, we have like 7 other characters that we're getting introduced to that are like important to the story, but we also have the 4 other ones, and like, I feel like they're completely different characters, and so it's 11 characters that I'm having to get to know. But I think I'm gonna just stop for tonight, kind of like let myself readjust my expectations and start with fresh eyes tomorrow, and hopefully binge the rest. Which I would like to say, I also read the entire 43% since like 4 o'clock this evening, and it's about like 10 o'clock. So like, that's like 300-ish pages. So like, it's a quick read. So I'm clearly getting some enjoyment of it because I am invested. It's a new day. So I decided that I should actually come on here and like say some positive things about the book, because I like this book, and I feel like I'm gonna get to the end of this video and like all I'm gonna do is like have complained and be like this close away from some sort of breakdown the entire time, and then I'm gonna be like, and it's a 4 star, and everyone's gonna be like, girl, you hated this book, what is wrong with you? It's a new day, it's a new me. I've come to terms with the fact that I might necessarily love this book, but there's a couple of things that have helped me come to terms with it. Number 1, I think that there is enough distance and differences between the books that like I'm able to separate them in my head. But also number 2, I kind of came to the realization that I really like, obviously I loved Shades of Magic when I read them originally, but I didn't love them nearly as much as I do now. Obviously they are now my number 1 series of all time, but they weren't when I first read them. Last night I kind of had that realization. I was like, they have become your favorite series through so much rereading of them and your love growing every time. They were not my favorite series when I first read them. There's the potential that when I reread it, I will love it more. And if I don't, as I said, there's enough difference and distance that I'm okay with that. But I basically came to this realization because I remembered reading A Conjuring of Light, and I debated giving it a 4 stars. I was really stuck between 4 stars because I did really love A Darker Shade of Magic when I first read it. And I gave A God in the Shadows 5 stars, but it was kind of a lower one. And Conjuring of Light, I really debated 4 or 5 because I was like, it's nowhere near as good as the first one. Funny, because now that book literally makes me cry. But I was like, no, it's nowhere near as good. And it was just the ending that was so good that like made me give it the 5. But like, I didn't love and adore Conjuring of Light when I first read it. So why do I expect myself to love and adore this book the first time I read it? I've basically realized I'm a little silly. And then I also remembered I tried to find it, but I can't. My old Instagram that I've deleted. Basically, once upon a time, I had a different Instagram account, and I remember in 2019 when I first read the series, I posted a top 10 best and a top 10 worst of the year. And A Dark Shade of Magic, remember, that's my favorite book in the series, and it's now my favorite series of all time. I'm pretty sure it was number 6 on that list of my top 10 books of 2019. It didn't even get the top 5. It didn't even get the top spot in 2019. And now it's one of my favorite books of all time. Basically, I've realized I'm a little dramatic. I can't find it. I don't have the list anywhere. But it went on my Goodreads, which I read like 56 books. It's like, it was like 6 of 56. I'm like, oh. And I definitely number 1 was Radio Silence, which I get. And number 2 was Lost Boy by Christina Henry. I remember those two because I remember I actually read Lost Boy after A Conjuring of Light. I can't remember what 3, 4, and 5 are, but I'm pretty sure 2 of them might have been Cassandra Clare. And then the other one was Ask and the Answer by Patrick Ness. And then, as I said, I think it might have been Ghosts of the Shadow Market. Was that the year that it came out? And I think Red Scrolls of Magic. And then A Darker Shade of Magic. But anyway, let's actually talk about positives, because I do actually have quite a few. And I think what the thing is, I actually really respect what the eShop is trying to do, because I think, obviously I went into this with kind of some wrong expectations, I think, because I expected the kind of same characters that I know and love. And I think, number 1, she made it very difficult for herself because of the fact she's basically starting fresh. Like, yes, we have 4 characters, but it's been so long, they've gone through a lot. So like a lot of the side characters are gone from the original series. And so she has not only set it up that she needs to introduce us, like reintroduce us to the characters that we love, but 7 years on, she's also introducing us to, I think, 3-ish new characters that are main characters. And then also she has to introduce us to basically an entirely new cast of side characters, because like there's basically none left. And so like she has a huge job to do. And I think in general she is actually trying to make this a more epic story, because that is never what I think when I think of A Dark Shade of Magic. I think of it's so character driven to me. Like, yes, there are these hints and talks of politics and magic and all of this, but that's never the focus, I feel. And like, yes, there's this big bad and like, you know, adventure to go defeat, but I feel like she's never really gone like super deep into kind of like the other stuff, like the origins of the magic. Like, we've only kind of like touched on like the different politics of the neighboring countries and also the politics of the different Londons and all this. I feel like she is trying to make it a much more epic story, and I mean, this is however many books in, and I feel like this is her most epic story. And I mean, you have to respect that for her to try to take the stuff that she's already built and really build upon it. And I think she is doing a good job of it, and I am enjoying learning more about the magic. I am enjoying learning more about the politics of these worlds, and I do think that it is like, the plot is good. It's just I never expected it to be like a more plot-filled book. I expected it to be a character-driven book. And so then when I went in, and I would say the plot is pretty strong. It is actually quite well paced for the amount of perspectives we are getting. Like, we are getting a good division. I feel like I understand what everyone is doing and how this is all going to connect. And as I said, I just didn't expect that. And so like, I think it's a pretty good plot. I really do respect what she is trying to do with this plot, because it is, I feel like, a whole new level for her. And I do really respect that. And I do really enjoy that. But as I said, I think I just went in with the wrong expectations. I expected it to be characters first, you know, plot way down. And I don't think that's actually the way it is. The writing, I also think the writing is really solid. I always enjoyed the writing in Shades of Magic anyway. I feel like she has always, for me, like, yeah, obviously in some of her like earlier books, a bit weaker. I think she's always done a pretty good job of balancing the description and the dialogue and the action. I think she's always done a pretty good job of that. And I think that is the same in here. I feel like it's a pretty good balance. I will say maybe a little more heavy on the descriptions than previous books, but I mean, this is after Addie LaRue and Gallant, so of course she has definitely like developed those like descriptive, atmospheric kind of writing that she does. And I think that there has been some like pretty beautiful imagery of like different places that Kel and Lila have explored. The last thing I'm going to say is I do like the characters. Another thing that I like is she's kind of pushing herself out of her comfort zone with some of these characters, because I think that's a criticism the shop has gotten in general, is that a lot of her main female characters are very similar. I think that they are really trying to push themselves in this one to not kind of fall into those familiar character tropes. And so we have Tess, who I feel like is very different. Like, yes, she's still very, you know, resourceful and smart and cunning, like all of her characters are, but she's quite a bit of a softer character from what we've seen, and I am enjoying her so far, and I'm enjoying what we're learning about the magic with her. And we also have like Nadia, and she's also a bit of a different, like, yes, I think she could fall a bit more into the tropes of like she wants the power and the freedom and all of this kind of stuff that we see a lot in Lila, but she's also very different as well, because like, yes, she's like, she wants power, she wants freedom, she wants knowledge, but also she wants to be a mother, and she like very much like her family comes first, and she would do anything to protect them. I'm not sure that I mentioned them. I have spotted 2, maybe 3, I can't remember. I can remember 2 off the top of my head continuity errors. So low-key spoilers for Conjuring of Light, like they don't spoil the main plot. Lila was able to make a portal while on a boat, which we know from A Conjuring of Light is not possible. Number 2, they mentioned a rule about how the royal family can only have 1 child, because to like balance, because of like the balance of the world or something. And that is also not true, because in Amira's plotline in A Conjuring of Light, we learned that Maxim actually really wanted another child, but she was far too terrified to ever have another kid because she was so afraid of anything bad happening to Rye. And so I'm like it just didn't make sense. You could also just say that Rye didn't want another kid. So it just kind of doesn't make sense. I'm a little more optimistic. I've only read like 3% more, but I'm really liking the part that we're getting right now, because we're back in the White London and we're seeing what's happened over there in the past 7 years. And I definitely, because I've seen a lot of people complain that like they were really enjoying the first half, or like the first 40% or whatever, and then like the switch into White London was very jarring, and I was definitely like afraid of that. I was like, why are we, like, it feels like this should be like just deal with like the Red London stuff right now, and then like in the second book bring in White London. Like, we don't need another plotline. But I'm really intrigued by everything that is happening. I'm very intrigued as to the way that's going to play out, because it seems different, like at first glance, because it's more alive, but like underneath it there is still like already this current of, I don't think it's really changed that much. Like, it is still brutal and bloodthirsty, and I'm really intrigued to see how all of this is going to play out. So I may have been being a little over dramatic yesterday, because I really like the past 10%. I'm so embarrassing. Like, at this point I would say it's still a 4-star, but like the past 10% has been 5-star energy. So like, but because the first 40% was 4 stars, like it's like a low 5-star the past 10%. So I'm gonna need to like the next like half to be like, you know, 5-star, and then it could potentially get bumped up. But like, if it, like, yes, we're in 5-star energy, but even if we continue with this 5-star energy, it's not gonna be enough for me to bump it up. So we gotta keep going, you know? Dead. So I'm now 70% of the way in, and I'm definitely enjoying it a lot more. I still think it's gonna be a 4-star, but it's definitely a lot higher of a 4-star than it originally was, so that's good. And I am overall really enjoying my time with it now, which is good. And it's actually really strange, because this past 30% has really quite changed. And because like in the first 40%, I would say like, yeah, I was intrigued by Tess, but like out of like the 3 new main characters, I would say it was Nadia who interested me most, then the Queen in White London, and then Tess. And whereas now I would actually say it's been reversed. Tess is the character that interests me most, then still the White London Queen, then Nadia. I'm actually really loving Tess as a character. We've gotten a bit more of her backstory. We've gotten her doing some really exciting things. Like, really the plot is going. It's full steam ahead now, and I'm really enjoying that. I am still intrigued to see how White London is actually going to connect to the main story, or is it? Like, I imagine it will have to. But how? It's nowhere near Shades of Magic for me, but I am having fun. So we will take that. It's like, oh my god, it's Friday the 13th. When will I edit this video and upload it? Who knows? But I finally got a Waterstones package, which means my Percy Jackson book has finally arrived. This has taken over 2.5 weeks to get to me. Obviously, I already read it. You saw that in this vlog. This is why I hate pre-ordering stuff on Waterstones, but I couldn't resist because it's such a pretty book. No. Oh, look how close I was. Okay. Oh, look at that edge. Got it. Look at it. The edges are blank, which I think would be nice to at least put a color on them, but I mean, look at that. That is so cool. It's signed. Woo. So that's nice. Maybe this will give me the energy to actually finally edit this vlog. See ya. I'm finally finishing up this vlog. I went to edit it, and then I realized I never like wrapped it up / finished talking about Threads of Power. So sorry. It's like well into October. I finished them before the end of September. And whoops. So in this vlog I read 3 books. I read Labyrinth's Heart by May Carrick, gave that 5 stars. I read The Chalice of the Gods by Rick Riordan, gave that 5 stars. And I read The Fragile Threads of Power and I gave it 4 stars. So we'll get back to that in a minute. But if you had told me at the start of this video, out of those 3 books, Chalice of the Gods will be your favorite, I would have been very surprised. Let's just wrap up Fragile Threads of Power. I don't even have a copy of the book yet. My Waterstones one is finally on the way to me. No news on the Owl Crate or the Illumina Crate yet. And I will be going to Dublin this Thursday to see a V Schwab event. And I will be getting a signed copy there that you get with the ticket. I did overall really enjoy that book. I don't really actually have too much more to add from what I actually said. I enjoyed the story overall. I think that I have potential to bump it up to a 5-star when I reread it in the future, because let's be honest, I will. I don't think I'm probably going to reread it like immediately, like next time I read Shades of Magic, because like I think V. Schwab's next book is going to be, well, the working title is Bones, so like the next book, it's not going to be out next year, so like then 2025 the second book in this series will be out, and like I'll probably reread it then. But I reread Shades of Magic every year, so like when I read it next year, I probably won't read Fragile Threads of Power, but before the next book comes out I will probably reread it. I struggled trying to figure out what I wanted to give the rating, because the first 40%, as I said, was a 4 stars, but then the last 60 was a 5-star. It wasn't a high 5-star, but it was a 5-star. But it wasn't a high enough 5-star to kind of counteract the 4-star energy. So I ended up giving it a 4-star. It is my second highest 4-star of the year though. My highest is Middle Game. So it's still like decently high, but oh my god, when I tell you my reading this year, oh, like my 4 stars are so good. Like usually, 4 stars, I like them, but like my 4 stars this year, I love my 4 stars this year. Whereas like the 5 stars are like, oh my god, this has my entire heart and soul. Whereas like the 4 stars are like, I love this. And like 3 stars are like, I like this. Like my reading has been so different this year. Like I've had such a good reading year. And so obviously I did really enjoy this book in the end. I kind of wish that I had done just like what I did with like Galen, to do like a, half spoiler free, half spoiler filled, because I feel like I had a lot of like spoilery thoughts and I can't really share them. Yeah, I think one of the things, like by the end I really loved a lot of the characters. I had kind of just really started to love the characters that I already loved again. I don't really have anything else. I like the characters, I like the writing, I liked the plot, and I'm really intrigued as to where this is going. But my main issue, there is literally no point in the way so London storyline in this, except that it will play into future books, because it did not at all connect into the main plotline. But it is obviously like kind of like in Shades of Magic, how we're introduced to the concept of Black London, but like the actual like threat in that book is just one little stone basically. But like we're introduced to the concept of Black London, which is kind of the big threat for the entire series. And so I'm kind of wondering, is that what she's doing with White London? Is she like kind of introducing it as this will be a problem, but not for now. But it just felt very out of place. But like, I still like the storyline, and I'm still like, there's things that are happening. I'm like, is this real? But like, also like, if it wasn't real, then how would she know this? So I'm like, so it has to be real. But also, why is this person acting like this then? So yeah, so like, I have a lot of questions about that, but you know, I'm pretty sure that's what the usual intended. So I can't be too mad about it. And then my other thing is, I'm a little nervous that this series will end up being a little too similar, like overall plot will end up being too similar to Shades of Magic, because obviously we have a lot more like smaller, more intricate like world politic things that are happening. So like in this we had like this group called the Hand, and we've definitely started getting a lot of things, but like that's not the big antagonist for the series, I don't think. A part of me still thinks, like, from things that we're hinting at, like Black London is kind of again going to be the problem, and I'm kind of nervous about that. I feel like what we have going on in White London is very similar to what we see in Holland's storyline in A Conjurer of Light. You know, obviously that's not like a complaint about this book, it's more a worry for the series going forward, because like, we don't know based on this book what's going to happen. So thank you guys so much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.